Hello, I am Allison Gordon Wright, and I am one of the immigration attorneys here at Villafranca Law. So today I want to talk to you about getting your green card through your US citizen spouse and how you go about doing that. So today I want to focus on individuals who are adjusting their status from within the United States. So if you're married to a US citizen, you last entered the country lawfully and you are hoping to apply for a green card, then please watch this video. I think this video will be helpful for you. So, why do I say you have to have entered the country lawfully for this part to apply for you? Well, that's because to adjust your status from within the United States, which is just a way of saying to go through the process here in the US, you have to have a status that you're adjusting from, right? So you're changing from, for instance, an H-1B visa, you're on an employment visa or a student visa. We see this happen a lot, right? You come to the US on your F-1 visa, you meet the love of your life who happens to be a US citizen, and now you're applying for a green card. You're adjusting your status from F-1 student to lawful permanent resident, to a green card holder. And you are ultimately on the path to US citizenship at that point, if that's something you want to do. So again, you have to have last entered the country lawfully, whether that's with a visa. Sometimes that's with advanced parole, specifically DACA advanced parole. We work with a lot of clients who have DACA, who are married to US citizens and who are able to adjust their status here after traveling on advanced parole. So if that's you, I encourage you to check out our videos specifically talking to DACA recipients about advanced parole so that you can understand whether that might be a good option for you to travel and get that lawful entry. In a marriage-based case, we have to prove several things. So we want to prove that your spouse is in fact a US citizen, and we want to prove your marriage, right? So that's the first part of the case. We're looking at your marriage and whether it is bona fide or legitimate. And then the second part of the case is proving that you're admissible or eligible for lawful permanent residency. There's a lot of things that might make you ineligible. There's a possibility for a waiver if one of those inadmissibilities or ineligibilities apply to you. So there's also a waiver if one of those inadmissibilities apply to you. So we're looking at both the marriage and your history, right? And confirming that there's nothing in your past that would make you ineligible for lawful permanent residency within the United States. But today I want to talk a little bit more about that first step and about how you go about proving your marriage and what that even means, right? So in US immigration law, there are some fraud protections written into the law. So the US government, understandably, does not want folks to get married to a US citizen fraudulently, right? Just for the sake of a green card. On the contrary, they actually require you to prove that your marriage is not fraudulent and that it is what we call bona fide. So you'll need to present evidence that your marriage is bona fide. And I know that feels sometimes a little bit odd to think of your life, your personal text messages and pictures as evidence, but that's what it will be in this legal case before the government, right? So I mentioned photographs, I mentioned text messages. All of those things are great evidence of a real relationship, right? Like, oh, here's when we first met and we were texting back and forth. Here's photos of us on our third date. Here's pictures of us from our wedding. Here's pictures of us with our friends and family. All of these things are great forms of evidence. If you have proof of your life being shared together, right? Like, oh, we commingle our finances. We lease an apartment together. We own a home together. We have children together or pets together. All of these things are just things about your life, and they also happen to be things that show the U.S. government that, look, our relationship is very real and very legitimate and is not fraudulent. We are not getting married just so that I can have a green card. But because we're married, I would like to apply for a green card so that I have security and can permanently reside here in the United States. So I hope that's helpful to think through a little bit more about what it is, what kind of evidence the government is looking for when they ask you to prove your marriage and prove your relationship. We do a lot of adjustment of status cases for folks married to U.S. citizens. So if this is something that you're like, oh, yes, I entered the United States lawfully, and I'm married to a U.S. citizen, and I know I need to do this green card process, but I don't know how. I encourage you to schedule a consultation with us. When we meet with you, we'll make sure we analyze your specific case and exactly how all of these things apply to you so that you get individually tailored advice and feel really confident moving forward with this really big step in your life together with your spouse. I should say, if you're abroad and wanting to go to this process, you're not yet in the US, and we also handle those cases. I know we focus a little bit more on the adjustment of status option today, but if you're abroad, there is certainly an option for you to do something called consular processing, and we can chat with that. And we can chat with you about that in a consultation as well. It's a similar process, but you just do it abroad from outside the United States if you're not yet here and you don't have that lawful entry. So similar kinds of evidence that you'll submit before the government as far as proving your marriage, but the part two, the second step, looks different as far as being at the consulate versus being done in the US. But again, we'll talk through more. I hope that you reach out to us, schedule a consultation. I'd be happy to chat with you, hear more about your love story, and help you get status as a lawful permanent resident so you have that security as you build your life and family here in the United States. Thanks so much.